This day in sports history. This episode is brought to you by the Sterling Soap Company. I'm a big fan of shave soap. I've been using different brands for years, and I recently gave Sterling's shave soaps a try, and I've been very happy with the results. Sterling's shave soaps give you a great lather and a frictionless feel that allows the razor to glide right over the skin for a super close shave. No skin irritation and a clean, refreshing feel with no soapy residue after. I can tell you without a doubt, it's simply the best shave I've ever had. And my wife has noticed too. And here's the thing. With the ability to purchase 1-ounce sample pucks, you can try out different scents to find the right one for you. Give Sterling Soap a try today. Visit sterlingsoap.com. That's STIRLING soap.com. It's February 10th, and on this day in 1998, the U.S. men's national soccer team pulled off one of the unlikeliest upsets. This was a Concacaf Gold Cup semifinal match between the U.S. men and Brazil. Brazil is a member of CONMEBOL, a different football federation, but they'd been invited to play in this tournament, and that was an interesting choice since they were number one in the world and they were the defending World Cup champs, gearing up to defend that title a few months later in France. Now, any way you looked at this match before the first whistle, it shaped up to be a Brazilian rout, and not many in the U.S. even cared about it. There were only 12,000 people in the LA Coliseum to watch it, and by contrast, more than 45,000 people showed up to watch the other semifinal match 2 days later between Mexico and Jamaica. And in fact, the way the first half played out, it looked like only a matter of time before the Brazilians would score. They were peppering U.S. keeper Kasey Keller.
It might be tough for them. Here's the long shot at Mundo. And Keller makes the stop. Look out, opportunity. They play it outside Manuel in the area. Manuel, the shot blocked in front. The shot blocked at the 6-yard box. And another shot. And Kasey Keller just getting a piece of it. The cross in front. The header, the save. Oh, a diving save by Kasey Keller. And again, robbing Romario.
Keller repelled them all, and in fact, Brazil's Romario was so impressed after one point-blank shot that Keller had stopped, he walked over and shook his hand, and it was 0-0 at half.
You make a couple saves early, and you think, okay, that's kind of settling, and then you make a couple more saves, and a couple more saves, and then it's 0-0 at halftime, and you think, wow, we got to... You still didn't really think you had a chance. You still just kind of thought that, wow, we're kind of staying in this thing.
In the second half, the U.S. team was content to play conservatively, not take too many risks, and just look for opportunities to counterattack. And they broke the seal of the goal in the 65th minute with a guy who'd just checked into the game.
Wijnaldum. There's Preki on his left foot. The shot, the goal! In the 65th minute, gives the USA a 1-goal advantage.
But with 25 minutes and added time left, the Brazilians increased the pressure that they had been applying already to Keller. The U.S. did not break, though. Keller continued to build a brick wall behind him, and he ended up with 10 saves and a clean sheet in the 1-0 win to advance to the finals. Years later, Preki recalled the feeling after that win.
I remember after the game, it was hard to describe because you just beaten Brazil. After all those moments they had, and obviously Kasey put us in that position that make the moment like I had and ended up being a winner. So it was a great moment. It's always going to be there.
Hey, I needed to call a quick timeout to let you know that we're giving away a $50 gift card to Homefield Apparel. Have a favorite college sports team? Of course you do. You're listening to a sports podcast. Well, Homefield Apparel has all the great gear so you can support your team in style. Jerseys, hoodies, hats, and a whole lot more are available in your team's colors and insignias. So go to sportshistorynetwork.com/giveaways for your chance at a $50 gift card to Homefield Apparel. I've also put a link in the show notes. Now, let's get back out there. We've got more of this episode to do. On to the NBA now, and how about two incredible scoring performances on this night in not only different years, but completely different eras? Now, if I mentioned that this was a Philadelphia player that scored a bunch in a different era, I would guess that your first thought would be, this is another Wilt Chamberlain scores a bunch of points story. And in this case, you'd be wrong. Before Wilt, Philly had Jumpin Joe Fulks, and on this night in 1949, Joe went for 63. Now, these are the early days of the NBA, and in fact, it was still known as the BAA at this point, and this is also a time when there was no shot clock to incentivize teams to shoot the ball, which makes what Joe did on this night even more amazing. Now, if you're not familiar with the name Joe Fulks, then you should know that he's considered one of the developers of the jump shot. If you look at old footage from the 40s, guys were shooting two-handed set shots. Well, Joe had the ability to shoot with either his right or his left hand, making him a more dynamic scorer. He led the league in scoring in both 47 and 48, and during this season he averaged a career-best 26 a game, but he finished second in the scoring race to George Mikan. Well, on this night, Joe's Warriors were playing the Indianapolis Jets, and he was a one-man wrecking crew, and he set a couple of records in this one. He hit 27 of 56 shots from the floor, and he added 9 free throws to score his 63. His 33 points in the first 2 quarters set the record for most points in a half, and his 63 bested the previous single-game mark of 48 set by George Mikan. Moving forward now to 2012, Linsanity went into the stratosphere. The New York Knicks were playing Kobe and the Lakers at MSG, and Jeremy had himself a game. In the run-up to this one, Kobe had been asked what he thought of Jeremy and this whole Linsanity craze. He said he didn't know what they were talking about. Well, on this night, Kobe got a front row seat of the frenzy.
Lin puts it up, puts it in. Jeremy Lin off to a terrific start. Lin with 5 assists. Tough turnaround shot, gets it to go. Lin likes the open floor, spinning, puts it up and banks it in. Yes. Sensational play for Jeremy Lin. And the Spartan crowd on its feet again. Shumpert out to Lin. Lin fakes, pull-up jump shot, knocks it down. Crowd wants him, puts up the 2-pointer, puts it in. Jeremy Lin with 31. Jeffries another rebound. Lin for 3. Bang!
Lin dropped 38 in a 92-85 win against Kobe and the Lakers. Of course, these two would wind up as teammates 3 years later, and what would be a very tumultuous year in LA, the beginning of which started on this night in 2012. On this day in 1962, another 4-minute barrier was cracked. So most folks know that British runner Roger Bannister recorded the first sub-4-minute mile in May of 1954. It was a human feat that for the longest time, the majority of people that had ever lived on the planet thought was unobtainable. But once the barrier was broken, several stepped through that void. Now, of course, Bannister's record was outside, which is not to minimize that at all, but it took nearly another 8 years before the feat of a sub-4-minute mile could be duplicated indoors. And the man who did it has been mostly lost to history, except in the most niche of running circles. So running an indoor mile is slower than running one outside on a 400-meter track. Indoor tracks have tighter turns, and with a lot of indoor tracks built to fit into a space, they can be 200 meters or even 160 meters. So there are more turns in an indoor race. On this day in 1962 at the Los Angeles Sports Arena, American Jim Beatty became the first person in the world to run a sub-4-minute mile indoors. Beatty, a North Carolina native, had been a distance man in the 1960 Olympics in Rome, running the 5,000-meter. On this night, a full house of 13,000 were in the seats to hopefully watch history being made as Beatty suited up for the Los Angeles Track Club, running with 3 LATC runners with the intent on assaulting the indoor mile record. Jim McKay and ABC Sports broadcast it live. The gun to start the race fired at 10:15 that night, and it would be over before it hit 10:19. The group ran the first quarter in 59.1, with Beatty getting paced by his teammates. Coming to the bell lap, the chance for the first sub-4 indoor mile was evident. Here's Jim McKay that night.
Beatty's being track history right here and now. He still has about 20 yards to go. He's going to make it. He's going to run the first 4-minute mile. It looks like he made it unofficially. 3:58.6. What did you get, Dick?
According to my watch, 3:59 flat. No doubt about it. Jim Beatty has just run the first 4-minute mile indoor history.
There you see him, Jim Beatty. Tired, weary, but oh so happy.
The official time would go down as 3 minutes 58.9 seconds, and Jim Beatty had become the first person to run a sub-4 mile indoors. Beatty became known as Mr. Indoor, with Bannister Mr. Outdoor. Reflecting on his feat 60 years later, Beatty said, being the first to accomplish something special, well, that can never be taken away. It is everlasting. And this one may not be so surprising now that we are in the days of artificial intelligence. But on this day in 1996, IBM's Deep Blue defeated a chess champion for the first time, taking down the world champ at that time, Garry Kasparov. Time now for today's That's Got Nothing to Do with Sports fun fact. In 1993, Frenchman Émile Larrey was driving deep in the Sahara Desert when his Citroën broke down. All alone in the middle of the desert and sure to perish if he tried to walk, he disassembled the car, built a motorcycle from the usable parts, and he rode to safety. When he started out, he figured that he had 10 days of water and thought that it would take about 3 days to rebuild his car into a motorcycle. Instead, it took him 12 days to build the motorcycle. He made it back to safety, but just barely. Shortly before his journey was finished, though, he was pulled over by a policeman for driving an illegal vehicle. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.